and of course also other farm inputs. We've seen in the space of financing for MSMEs, Hustler Fund has been there the whole year.
I actually thought that was to be your starting
point.
Yeah,
but I have to begin with food. Right now, I must say we are in holidays, but we have food, putting food on the table. And this is thanks to President Ruto's subsidizing fertilizer. So when it comes to Hustler Fund, we've been able to disburse at an hour ago, 43.3 billion to 22.1 million Kenyans. We have repeat customer base of 7.7 million Kenyans. And then we have been able to mobilize savings of 2.2 billion as at an hour ago, because I was able to check if I switched off my phone. Repayment so far is 74%. We've served both women and men at almost 50-50. We've been able to, so majority of our borrowers are young people aged below the age of 35 at almost 67%. Interestingly, because this was enabling financial inclusion, and for us to kind of measure if at all we have attained that, majority of borrowers are those that use the feature phone and not smartphone. So meaning that indeed majority of the borrowers on the Hustler Fund,
they are the users of what we call the Mulika Mwizi.
The Mulika Mwizi. So meaning that this product, the Hustler Fund, has really gotten to each and every corner of this country and has kind of brought on board financial inclusivity. Now, as we finish the year, we've also, the beneficiaries, or rather I can call them the good borrowers of Hustler Fund, also have benefited in two ways. One, for those that had interacted with the product more than borrowed 5 times and above, who 5 times plus. You know, we have those who have borrowed even more than 1,000 times. But if you look to
more
those,
than 1,000 times.
1,000 times. So have those who have borrowed more than 1,000 times.
So that would be like how many times a day?
3-4 times, or rather.
3-4 times a day.
So we've had to increase. For example, we topped up their limit. We enhanced their limits. And then those who had the savings also, remember the government had promised, especially, you know, when you borrow the Hustler Fund, the personal loan, 70% goes to long-term savings, which you can call the pension. Because remember, most of the people we are targeting to serve are people who are not formally employed, are people who are in informal employment. So unlike myself and yourself and a few Kenyans who are formally employed, who their pension is being populated elsewhere, for those Kenyans who are not formally employed, time will come when they'll have to retire, I mean, even from business. So Hustler Fund has provided them with an opportunity where they can start also populating their pension.
Very good.
So, so let me just finish that, because these are good news for them. So what we did, beginning of this month, for all those Kenyans who has saved, who had borrowed and saved very well, because it's mandatory saving, we were able to match for them 2-to-1. So if they had saved 2 shillings, we matched for them 1 shilling. The government has already done that. Then the interest rate.
And this adds to the 3.3 billion shillings in 2.2 billion shillings in savings.
Yeah. So 70% of 2.3 billion shillings is matched up. Yeah, has been matched up.
Okay.
Yeah, it does not add there. So that's so when we match up, so you can work out how much are we matching up, because it's
the 2.2 billion shillings.
So we'll match up with 1. So we are going to match up with almost to 1.1 billion shillings to those Kenyans, and those ones who have started. Actually, we have already matched up. Beginning of this month, we matched up. The interest at the end of this year, by 31st December, all the interest, because you see now the product has it's now 1 year old. So all those savings that they were saving, and they were their interest were being invested in T-bills and stuff. So we worked out with the commercial banks who were investing this, and it's -3. Depending on where now the T-bills rate were at that particular time, we're -3. If it was 15%, it's -3. So those Kenyans who save there, they will get 12%. If it was 11%,
1% per month.
Yeah, if it was so if it was, let's say, 9%, is -3. So that's what the Hustler Fund beneficiaries are going to get. And maybe I will just say this, that this year for us in the sector, again, this is the first time that we are having the State Department of MSME since independence. So our focus in the sector is to see to it these 16.5 million Kenyans, 16.5 million Kenyan workforce who are not formally employed. How do we make sure that we build secure, we support them to build secure, sustainable and competitive self-employment opportunities for them?
Very good.
And that's why the whole of this year you've had a lot of conversation about the value chains, because we want to provide to this majority of Kenyans who are not formally employed an end-to-end solution.
We'll be coming back.
We are not just, the thing is, we are not just teaching them how to fish, as people always say. But in addition to teaching you how to fish, we have to provide you with fishing nets, and we must show you where to fish.
Very good. I want to hear from Dr. Ezekiel. I know you are very passionate about the performing industry and the talent industry as well. What would you say has been the highlights of the industry?
First of all, let me join the PS in saying that there's been quite remarkable efforts by the government to ensure that we resuscitate our economy. We must understand that this year began from a perspective of Kenyans still experiencing the effects of COVID-19, and then the electioneering period, and therefore we started from a point of a very big challenge where particularly the area where I come from was hugely affected by the effects of COVID, and therefore some of the measures that the PS is speaking about actually have been very good for us in the creative economy. And I can say we are in a better place right now because while there were hits and misses in terms of policy, in terms of reconfiguring the approach to the way the creative economy has always operated, I think the fact that we are back to performances, that hotels are full, that we have musicians in different places now performing and making a living is a great thing. And we've seen even the way the diaspora has come in to cushion even our artists and the tours across the world where the diaspora are inviting Kenyan artists to perform. I think this has been a very good year. I think every time there's a challenge, O'Brien, we always find a way of finding our very self and our very best. And I think this has been very good for the creative economy. Of course, there are challenges. There are people who have not quite recovered. There is a lot that the government can do to reboot the creative economy. But I think we're in the right path. The policies are right. The resilience is there, the optimism is there, and I think we just need to have more collaboration. Yeah. If you look at for example, the new initiatives like Talanta Hela, and what we are working on now, the Creative Economy Policy and the Creative Industries Bill 2023, that we are working under the Ministry of Sports, the Creative Economy and the Culture. I think when you look at it, there is a determination by the government this time round to get the policy pillars that will guide the creative economy to grow. And I think this year we have experienced some of the best times in terms of support from the government, actual support in terms of programs. We have for the first time had the Jamhuri Day dedicated to the creative economy. And you saw the Africa Connect conference that took place here in Nairobi. And you could see the excitement from youth from across Africa in celebrating the vibrance of Kenya as a country and the youth and our creativity. So I tend to think all is not lost. I know there are a lot of people feel because of the issues of levies and taxations and so on, the cost of living and so on, and they focus only on the negative. I think in a program like this, it would be good to have a bigger picture,
a holistic
approach to it, and see where we are going.
Very well.
And I dare say we're in a good place.
We're in a good place. Before I let you go, I also want you to comment about, I mean, we also saw, you know, in a bid to broaden the tax base, the government now targeting digital content creators through the withholding tax of 15%. How has these boded with the sector?
I think there was a conversation around that, and we were actually the only people who are considered for lowering of the same, so that the initial proposal is not what is actually now being operationalized. The government has been quite, accommodating and listening to the views of the creative economy in that process. And I think if you look at some of the people who are making real money, they're in this sector. I think we have been treating this sector as if it's not an industry in itself. And there are people, there are musicians. Look at what Samido has been doing. I mean, you can see real initiatives that are bringing money, and the government supporting the same. In my view, the levies are justifiable.
Yeah.
The creative economy is making real money. And I think if we want to be considered as a profession, the best way is to have the structures that run the other operations, like lawyers, engineers, all the other professions. They comply to certain measures. So we are aligning ourselves. In the process of alignment, I think obviously we need to be careful so that we don't overtax, because this is a growing economy, and this is the economy with the greatest potential to create jobs and wealth for our youth and for creatives. And using the infrastructure, the ICT infrastructure, and I'm sure Dr. Kasu will be talking about this, I think we can leverage on this to enable our artists make money. And so it's an economy. You want to look at it in terms of, do you want to tax more, or do you want to liberalize and in the process create more jobs and encourage more people, more young people to get into the creative economy? But in terms of the rate that was set, I think nobody's complaining.
Nobody's complaining about it.
Yeah.
I mean, and again, it was high time that we looked into this sector in terms of its contribution to, the revenue collection in this country, because you're looking at a sector that has grown in leaps and bounds, and now you're talking about an economy that is almost 50 billion shillings.
Absolutely.
And so it was the time that these also Kenyans, contribute a piece of their pie to the economic development of this country. Let's now turn to Sylvester Kasuku. What would you say has been the highlights? And before you respond, look, we are now counting how many years before the Vision 2030 comes, the life of the Vision 2030 elapsed. We are almost 6 years now to go. When you look at the year 2023, did we come close, or did we come close to the realization of the aspirations of Vision 2030, or we digressed?
Thank you, Brian. I'll touch that specific question, but I'll also use a bigger umbrella to tackle that particular question. The biggest highlights, in my view, of the year 2023, and as we go into the year 2024, is one, what the African Union captures in its evaluation report over the first 10 years, or the first decade of implementation of Agenda 2063. And of course, Kenya is right inside that particular agenda, where it shows that there were areas where the continent posted a lot of gains in implementation, particularly in the financial sector, among others. But when it comes to areas of infrastructure, which now comes into your question, it notes that infrastructure was not implemented with the expectation of the aspiration to goal 10 and 11. And what it therefore says is that the score is actually 8% for the entire continent, But it also says that there are parts of the continent where the score are very high. Like Ethiopia, they are giving 100% score in terms of doing its regional interconnectivity. Kenya is also given a high score. Tanzania is also given a high score because of their drive towards building the regional integration infrastructure. Within that particular ambit of the AU, again, Kenya was singled out as a country within the continent that has been identified to champion the center of excellence for governance. Of course, our politics is ours here at home, but we have showed something. We've already shown something at the continental level in which the continent believes that Kenya can actually take the lead in strengthening governance in the continent. And by that extension, a number of institutions within the government of Kenya, like the Kenya School of Government, are aspiring to be what you can call the African School of Government, to be the center for governance, as well as excellence and sustainable development, to help what we can call peer mentoring of a number of institutions that are found in other countries, including other governments. When I look at issues at the EAC region, again, we realize that there are new drives within the EAC region, and particularly on the regional integration infrastructure. There has been deepened investments, and there are new policy drives by the neighboring countries, in as much as Kenya has always been considered to be the leading one. But we've seen a more aggressive approach being put forward by countries like Tanzania. We are also talking about challenges. If we are talking about the highlights, there have been challenges, particularly which can be associated with economic challenges in the region, as well as even in the country. At the continental level, we've seen countries that are defaulting in their debt repayment. And of course, there have been a lot of what you can call social media, talk that is Kenya going to make it? Can we really make it? But of course, we saw this morning and yesterday that Kenya has actually paid the 10 billion. And our friends, Ethiopia, I feel for them because I do go to Ethiopia a number of times in my, in the execution of my technical roles in the region. We've seen Zambia and Ghana are also in that particular fold of countries that have been considered to have defaulted. And I can tell you, I've been around the continent, and I know what it means when a country defaults in its debt repayment. I know the impacts and the outcomes that it causes in the economy. I can talk about countries like Ghana. I saw a number of companies that were doing very well actually lost value in the stock exchange. They could not even carry out their programs outside the country where they had investments as well as other interests that they were going to pursue. I was once again in of course, the other day I was in Ethiopia, and I've seen some of those lingering issues where you start to find like the foreign exchange issue, or let's say the exchange rates, are no longer things that you can just walk into a bank and get the exchange rate that you want. Actually, if somebody hears that you want to change money, let's say dollars to the local currency, somebody starts telling you, no, go the other side, which means there's an element of instability in the policies that are governing the economy. My friend here talked about, Dr. Mutua talked about, the COVID situation that occurred. The post-COVID recovery period actually found 2023 to be a more interesting year, considering that there were policies that were put at the global level, at the continental level, at the regional level, and also at the national level. And we've seen some of these policies coming up, particularly the ones that were to cushion the vulnerable, to strengthen public health issues, as well as to strengthen certain sectors of the economy that suffered extensively, like the tourism sector. Even the entertainment, the creative economy also suffered quite a lot. But you've seen the spring back. They are springing back to life. We can talk about the issues of climate change. at the global level, which again heralded what you can call a policy shift from the global level coming to the continental level, and also influencing what you can call country and sector-specific policies. And of course, there's something that is so much loved in this country, which is very common in people's lips. They talk about carbon credit, but of course, that is not the only area that we need to look at, and I think given a chance, we'll be able to explore. There are bigger gold mines that we can look at that are more progressive. But of course, carbon credit makes sure that we do not go into the situation of destroying the environment to the level at which other jurisdictions that destroyed theirs are now looking for gains elsewhere. So that is also not that bad, but it is good. But we need to look at things beyond that level. Today, I think you must have seen it, O'Brien. You are very vibrant in learning news. Currently, there's what you call the intelligent rail transit that has been developed by China. You don't need the rail guides anymore.
No.
You don't need the electric lines anymore. But it uses some kind of intelligence system to pick its track just from some of the codes that have been put on they look like road marks, but it follows that in a very dedicated manner, and it is 0% polluting, and it carries more passengers than even buses can do. So as an economy that is looking forward to maybe bringing on board some of the new technologies or the new policies that have been used elsewhere, like the BRTs. You've heard about the BRT drive in Kenya before, particularly on the Thika Road, looking at Mombasa Road to come on stream, but they didn't pick up. But now that we are talking about IRT, surely you cannot be dying on the BRT line or the policy platform.
So are you saying that the issue of BRT has now been overtaken by events?
Not really being overtaken by events, but there are new technologies, there are new methodologies, there are new strategies which can be meshed with some of the past or some of the existing ones, so that we can achieve a much more sustainable urban transportation to meet mobility needs of the poor.
Very well.
I'm going towards just doing a wrap-up on this. We can also talk about shifts. Fine, there was a political shift in the country. Now, to be very specific, I'm now not going to another part of Africa. This is now Kenya. The 2022, towards its final quarter, you saw the election of the Kenya Kwanza government into power, and 2023 therefore became their first year after having gone through the various steps to getting various office holders into place. So basically they started work maybe January, February 2023, and of course with that there is also the policy shift. My friend with whom we worked before, Susan Mangeni, will tell you that the bottom-up approach or policy framework that is espoused by the government is definitely not, as it is said, is not what was there before. So we can say that there is a policy shift. But of course, we know that the bottom line is that we have a drive to deliver the Vision 2020, Vision 2030, as you're saying. And maybe now, the remaining 6 years shouldn't really be a time to wait for that 2030 to reach, but it's actually maybe to model a new growth or a new development policy or a new plan beyond the electioneering plans that we see with political parties or with political formations. So we should even be talking about maybe Vision 2070.
Very good.
Now, just to wrap it up.
Where are you going?
Okay, let me leave it there. What I can say is that the rest will be talking as we are.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that Vision 2030 definitely is on the implementation table. We do know that a lot of progress has been made, but we also take note of the difficulties that have come with economic challenges that are currently facing the globe. Because again, that's something that we also know, that currently there are economic challenges that have also changed spending dynamics or budgeting and planning dynamics of various governments, and Kenya has not been left out of that. So let me just
very good
give you a break from
and I was also expecting you to talk about the Lamu port. Finally, 5 ships have so far docked at the port of Lamu, which is a significant development. And the Lamu port, I mean, you developed that port from scratch to where it is now.
Yeah, what I
How dare you forget about that?
I'm not forgetting. That's why I talked about regional infrastructure. We are going to go into details.
We'll discuss more, definitely. There, we'll discuss more. But I want to come back to PS Mangeni, and you really talked passionately about what the government has done, and it's proper and it's better to say that the Hustler Fund has been a game changer in helping in broad money circulation in the economy of Kenya. Up to this point, do we really know what has been the impact, apart from increasing bankable population in Kenya? Do we also have any idea what has been the what we call the triple effect of Hustler Fund? Yeah,
as some people will say, it's probably too early to assess the impact. But I'll say, indicatively, the fact that there is that wide circulation of money in the economy, that in itself is an impact. You see, if you've been able to circulate 42, a portfolio of close to 43 billion in the economy, that in itself is an impact. I remember Hustler Fund is a revolving fund. So meaning I borrow, I repay, somebody else borrows and repay. And the fact that we've reached out to more than 22 million Kenyans in itself is an impact. I look at it at that point. The fact that now today we have Kenyans who are able to save. For example, the top borrower probably has populated close to 300,000 in savings. That in itself is an impact. He's not what he was before the Hustler Fund. Now, if you have a saving of about 300,000 in your account, you can actually walk to any financial institution, even the mainstream ones, and borrow credit against that. So they are now financially secured and to be accepted back to the economy. So I see that as being a huge impact. But also the question you asked about the creative industry. Kenya is a young nation. It's a young nation in terms of population. Averagely, we are about 17 years old. That's the average population.
The average?
The average age
17 years old,
Kenyan is 17 years. So we are like the great-grandfathers as seated here and great-grandmothers. We are outliers, I must say so. So that being the case, it means then the problem statement of Kenya is youth unemployment. And so then how do we fix that? We look at which spaces do these young people reside in. They reside in spaces of innovation, creativity, they are technologically savvy, and that now becomes the industry that we need to advance to create revenue into our economy, to generate more jobs, and to grow our economy. I mean, that's the industry. So, so in any economy, you have to look at what resources do we have, and what is now coming out that Africa as a continent, the youth population is now becoming a natural resource. In addition to what we've had there, like let's say, you know, the minerals and stuff, we also now trying to cash in the demographic dividends that we have in the continent and of course in Kenya. My friend here, Kasuku, has spoken about the carbon credits. That's also another natural resource that we have, which we can really exploit and develop our society, majority of our societies, and uplift the livelihood of our people. So as a government, what we've been trying to do in the last 1 year, and I must say, and Kasuku put it right, that we've been settling in. We've done the needs assessment. We've been taking our agenda to the ground. There are 5 key pillars of Kenya Kwanza manifesto, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda. The first pillar is agricultural transformation, and I think I've even spoken about that in terms of making sure we subsidize production, we have food, because you cannot even think about economic prosperity if you cannot afford the basic needs, which food is one of it. So to that end, we can tell that we made substantive progress in that area. The second one is, of course, the MSME, where I sit. And the first barrier that we tried to pull down was to ensure that the population of Kenya, which is unbanked, underserved, or not so much served by the mainstream financial institution, gets to be served. They get to build some sort of visibility and to see how we can mitigate on their high riskness, as they have always been defined, and that one we are achieving through the Hustler Fund. The third pillar was on the affordable housing. And this affordable housing, you've seen His Excellency the President to being able to groundbreak quite a number of projects across the country. And this is creating jobs into our economy for young people. You saw we had the debate the whole of this year when the housing levy was introduced, and people asking, why do I need a house? Do we need houses? Do we need what? But the same people also who are speaking like that, especially the leaders, they're the ones who keep on knocking the doors of the Ministry of Education, asking them for TVETs all over. My constituency needs a TVET. So if you walk around this country, you'll find that nearly in each and every constituency there is a TVET. Then you ask yourself, the young Kenyans whom we are training in those TVETs, where do they go? And remember, I told you our approach is that we don't just teach you how to do plumbing, how to do engineering. We must also give you the tools of trade, and we must also show you where to do it. We must link you to where the opportunities are, the labor opportunities, the employment opportunities. So I think this is one sector that is creating more opportunities for massive jobs for our young people, especially those who are in TVETs and those who have the low-skilled laborers. We are looking at healthcare. Today we are proud. In each and every corner of this country, you'll find the community health promoters all over. So it's also trying to reduce the burden that majority of Kenyans have had. Because remember, sick nation is always a poor nation. So those are some of the progress which we've had. The ICT, again, that's one space that as Kenyans we are known all over the world, coming up with very innovative tech solutions. We again always applauded across the world for having innovated mobile money solution. Today, with this Hustler Fund, is a digital lending platform. That's also another innovation that we have, which can enable nations to deepen financial inclusion to the population that is not banked. And the last one here, in our ministry, we've had visitors coming in, academias, the scholars, people from across the world who wants to understand this the platform, the Hustler Fund platform, because they are finding it being very effective in terms of reaching out to the population that is not served. But also globally, we must also appreciate that the cost of living is hitting everybody. And there is some sort of anger globally, just anger, because, and I think it's because of also having really been affected by the pandemic, because also when corona pandemic hit, it hit everybody across the globe, even the so-called developed nation. Also, they were heavily affected, and some were more affected compared to the developing nation. You can see we're still experiencing geopolitical tension, which is also have got an impact on the cost of living, because when they disrupt the global supply chains, what you end up with is the high inflations. There are no dollars, there's no nothing. I'm happy because our friend here, Kasuku, talked about the importance of debt repayment. and what it means to the economy when you default. And I see many Kenyans will say, you know, the cost of, because today I also went through the info track, and I say, you know, the cost is all about cost of living, high cost of living. But you see, if we decided that let's default, let's not repay, you know, the Eurobond and invest and subsidize consumption, we would, as Kasuku put it, we will have no economy in the next couple of months. It will not be prudent. Management. So I think we've seen a government that has really positioned Kenya on the global map in terms of the climate change action. Yeah. So we hosted the first African climate change summit here. In terms of also being outside there, our president has really done a lot in terms of pushing and really lobbying for the international financing system to be a little bit more flexible, more accommodative, and more inclusive, and also to the African context, you know, or rather to the global south context. So I think where we are today, we are now ready
for takeoff. Very good. I want you to leave it at there, but I want us, when we come back, I would want to hear this from Ezekiel Mutua, because you're in the field where you interact with a lot of young people. When you tie what the government is doing in terms of the Hustler Fund and the issues of the cost of living, together with the various initiatives being rolled out by the government, from Jitume initiative to Ajira Digital, I want you to tell us what has been the impact of all these initiatives to the young people that you represent once we come back. Well, if you're just joining us, you're watching Inside the Government live from Broadcasting House. We are looking back at the last 12 years of the year, at the last 12 months of the year 2023, and also trying to create a projection of what is likely to happen in the year 2024. My name is O'Brien Kimani. We are taking a short break, and thereafter we are back with more conversation. Stay right here.
Between me and these people.
This is none of your business.
No!
Sit down, Mr. Coolidge.
You can't take her away from me. This is wrong.
Mbona kunipigia kabla kujuku?
Do I really need to ask for permission to come and see my baby daddy?
Me and you, we don't have a baby together. And I'm really trying to work on my marriage. It's on the rocks.
Which marriage?
Since sasa nilikuwa naenda kuona Jen. Mbona tusiende pamoja?
Oh, hata nilikuwa nimesahau, nilikuwa na meeting.
Unataka tufanye biashara na wewe after what you did to Baba Jen?
Yeye naye tulioshwa live.
Unajua niliambia fadhako nimpeleke kwa mganga. Hiyo itasaidia na nini? Unajua mrogi tu ni talent.
Mimi ni Mkristo.
Humpty Dumpty had a great fall.
Wenda uanza hivi Jen.
Anaamka usiku anaanza kupembeleza dori.
Unajua kupoteza mtoto si rahisi.
So you want to move in too?
More like owning it.
And Kathy wants to sell you the house. Is it even under her name?
Nick, there's quite a lot you don't know.
You both would love to start a family in the near future.
Yeah, we would.
You're in charge of all his decisions.
What about you trying to steal my employees?
I'm not in your business.
It's Julian. What do you want? I really don't like bad energy around me.
Well, you've never partied with Tiffany Junguna before.
Oh, I can't wait. That's inappropriate.
Did I do anything wrong?
You're my boss.
This girl might even be using hard drugs. What will I know?
Now you have me wondering if you're her dad.
So what happened to that promise of minding your own business?
Please.
So you think the same fate will befall me? Only time can tell. It's a waiting game then.
Get ready for the captivating return of the FKF Premier League, exclusively on KBC. Brace yourself for the thrill of football as 18 teams battle it out for glory. Every week, KBC brings you not one, but two heart-pounding matches, delivering the best football action right to your living room. The stakes are higher than ever. The league champion takes home a handsome prize of 5 million shillings and also earns the honor of representing Kenya in the prestigious CAF Champions League. Feel the adrenaline, experience the suspense, and join the roar of the crowd as we celebrate the return of Kenya's football legacy. The FKF Premier League, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 and KBC radio stations. Save the date, mark your calendars, and get ready for the ultimate football spectacle. Coming to you live only on KBC. KBC, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. You're watching Inside Government, live from Broadcasting House. We need the company of Principal Secretary, State Department of MSMEs. This is Susan Mangeni, as well as Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, the Chief Executive Officer of Music Copyright Society of Kenya, and Sylvester Kasuku, the former Director General of LAPSSET, who is now an infrastructure consultant. They are all on the site. Our conversation, we are looking back at the year 2023 and creating projections for the year 2024. Before we went for the break, I wanted to find out from you, Dr. Ezekiel, you know, dealing with the young people, I mean, has given you a lot of exposure in terms of their psychology, their behaviors, and so much. And when you look at the issues of the Hustler Fund, and the new digital spaces being created by the government, from the Ajira Digital to Jitume to the public Wi-Fi hotspots, how have all these conspired to improve the welfare of the people or the constituency that you focus on?
Thank you. I think generally these are very innovative way of connecting with the youth. Like PS Susan has said, the youth is our greatest asset. And it's not just the numbers that become our asset and make us proud, but the empowerment of the youth. So we have a youthful population. Like she said, the average age is 17, which is really phenomenal. But it's not just the youth. It is how that youth or that youthful population is empowered, is supported. And like we have all said, these youths are innovative. They are educated. They are yearning to grow and to own their space and become part and parcel of the development agenda. What they need to be given, one, is hope. We must give our youths hope. If we rob them of anything else, our youths must remain hopeful, must remain in a country where they feel the future is bright. And how do we guarantee them that bright future? Is by ensuring that, because our youth are ahead of us, these are netizens, these are global citizens. These are youth that are connected to the world, and particularly in the area of the creative economy in ICT. I think we have not begun even to understand how ahead of us they are. And I think we need to read a book by Thomas Friedman that he wrote some time ago called The World is Flat. Our youth are there. And when you look at the pillars that really stabilize the youth, it's empowerment. If you want to empower the youth, give them information, connect them with the world, give them the opportunities. Don't just give them the fish, show them how to fish. And I think P.S. Susan really articulated that very well. So all these things, setting up the Wi-Fi, the public sports and so on, connect with them at their level. All these Ajira, Jitume programs, Talanda Hela, we are speaking the language of the youth. that will give them the hope for the future to feel that they're in a country where they can grow. And I think these positive stories, O'Brien, they are part of our recalibration of our moral fabric. Because what we have been lacking, and I saw the president complaining about it the other day, that we have been conditioned to be negative. You know, just to whine and complain. We have been told that when people join government, they become stupid and evil, and so we don't love our leaders and we don't support them. And that mentality has meant our youth even more depressed, and they have lost hope. The part of the recalibration of that moral psyche, because I tell you, O'Brien, we have done very well in building our physical infrastructure. But I think there's also a sense in which we need to build the software of the nation. And that software lies with the the age that P.S. Susan is talking about. Give them hope, give them the tools, give them the skill, open the opportunities for them. Our youths don't want to be lectured. They don't want to be, pushed. They just want to grow in an environment where the government does what the government should do, create an enabling environment for our youths to prosper, for our youths to create, for our youths to make money in an easy way within a legal framework that encourages them, a legal framework that recognizes them. And I think when I see people like PS here, she looks quite youthful. I have not asked her age. I don't want to ask her on set. But I think she looks like them. She looks like them. At least
she can relate with them.
She can connect. Then when you listen to her, she talks like them. When you listen to C.S. Ababna Mwamba, because we work very closely with him, you feel optimistic about this country. And then finally, we are people who understand the language of the youth in government. And if they go on with the programs that they have started in 2023, I think the turning point is in 2024. We can finally, for real, empower the youth through these programs, connecting them, opening up the space, creating, like in my area, co-productions in film, connecting them with South Africa, with the US, and creating an ecosystem that spurs growth within the creative sector by ensuring that there's a legal framework that is friendly for innovations. There's a legal framework that is well coordinated, because the creative sector is an ecosystem. There's the role of the government, there's the role of mentorship for the artists themselves to produce quality products that resonate with the market, and they just need to be mentored and encouraged and supported and cheered on and given the space for them to grow. And I tend to think this is what the government has done. And I'm very optimistic myself. I choose, like my brother Mohamed Gilsi says, to be an optimist, that we are in a good space because the first year of this Kenya Kwanza government recognizes that even within their development blueprint, the better agenda has in it the creative economy. And largely that will benefit the youth.
What are the young people, when you interact with them, what are they saying about the cost of living and the measures that the government has put in place to ensure that the cost of living becomes bearable in Kenya?
Obviously, the ASLA Fund and other programs that PS has articulated, they are still, the jury is not yet out there. I think it is too early to judge, but she has given the numbers. The numbers don't lie. If that's a level of uptake for the ASLA Fund, 43 billion PS, you see it?
Yeah.
And 22 million Kenyans borrowing from that fund. You may not be able to measure the impact within the first 1 year. That's why I was saying 2024 will actually give us the clear picture of the policies of this government. Right now, the talk has been negative, and that's what I'm talking about. I wish we can also invest, aggressively in reinvigorating, re-engineering the moral fiber so that people know there is hope and tell our stories and the happy stories. Stories of resilience and optimism. Use our school system and use our creative economy to create programs and songs and films that give hope, that encourage positive social values. I think this culture of negativity and whining and condemning and complaining has been built over years, and it may not take 1 year or one term of our president to change it. But we need to start now, because I tend to think our biggest challenge when it comes to the youth is that negativity that has been built over years, that you hate your parents, you hate your government. Right now, O'Brien, one of the greatest challenges that we're going to face, a catastrophe in our time, is the hatred that is being built between children and their parents. We are sitting on a time bomb. Do you know many children don't love their parents? And we are building a culture through social media, through our songs and our content that seems to normalize hate against established authority, against God, against parental authority. This is more of the problem, and you can't solve this by just creating programs to give money. It needs to also be considered as part of our programs to re-engineer the moral fabric, so that we tell our youth hard work pays. Stories like the M-Pesa that is renowned across the world, it was created by a young person. The stories of people like Angelo Oktoi, who is now,
a tennis superstar.
Exactly. The Arambi starlets and others. We need to focus more on where Kenya is in terms of positive stories, positive developments, because when you look at now, to answer your question, the reality on the ground, Vito kwa ground, people feel the cost of living is too high, people don't see hope, and I tend to think there is something that the president is doing that needs to be commended. That the president is giving leadership. I think Kasuku, and the 2 days ago, because even when we started talking about this program, I was saying, I hope these programs will save us from going the way of Ghana and Zambia. Now, 2 days ago, Ethiopia became an example also in defaulting on their international debt obligations. People don't seem to understand that. We tend to talk about very, flimsy stuff, and we don't get into the details so that even our youths who want to know can have the information to know what it would mean if we were to default. That the economy would crumble and there would be no hope, there would be no economy to build on. So that now what the president is doing by providing leadership, because we needed that kind of approach. And I pray that he succeeds, because if he doesn't, then it will be catastrophic in terms of the 2027. However, I like what he said when he had the interview with the journalist, that he was not elected to start looking for a second term. He was elected to lead a country. And I think leading the country means facing the reality, telling the people the truth, and then working on policies that are going to change their lives. If we have now managed to save ourselves from the way of Ethiopia, Zambia, and Ghana in terms of meeting our financial debt obligations, I think that story needs to be amplified. It's not being told enough. We don't tell good stories, as loudly as we amplify small things. And the president was complaining that we speak a small issue, something bad happens and we blow it out of proportion, but there are a lot of many good stories that are going on.
Very good.
How do we get the opportunities to tell these good stories? How do we get the opportunity to shift the lenses of our cameras from the negativity, the hate, the toxicity, to the greatness of our country, and tell our youth, you can be O'Brien, you can be Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, that where you are is not your destiny. We were all there, and let them begin to relate with people who are real, that they can see. The only way to do that, we must work on our moral fabric. We must preach water and drink water, not wine. We must set examples. We must amplify those examples of hard work, that there are no shortcuts to success, that there is no gain without pain, and to tell them those stories in a way that they are believable. Identify champions among the youth that can speak their language and encourage them to be patriotic and to love their country. These are things that I'm very passionate about, and I hope we can play a role as the creative economy to re-engineer the moral fabric of our country, the software issues, and ensure that this country becomes the great country it is.
There is something that you had posted on social media some times back, which gained a lot of traction, and you said that after 30, you don't talk about your background anymore.
Yes.
You are the background.
You are the background. And the essence of it is, if you look at it on average, around 30, a Kenyan is beginning to, they're responsible. They are either establishing a family, they have a child. You are now building your own story. So the story of your parents and how you were brought up cannot be the ones that you hang on. You now take responsibility, own your story, build your life, and become the background, that you be the reference point. I grew up in a village that is not on Google Maps, and I keep telling people, I went to schools, some of them closed. You know where I started in Form 1? It was a school called Popular High School. It closed down. But allow me to say with pride that I married a girl from Kenya High School, who went to Kenya High School from 1 to Form 6, because education is an equalizer. And I think stories like this need to be told so that child in my village can know that they can grow.
They can also have hope.
Last night I was seated with my dad, who is 110 years, and a lot of children, he has the 5th generation. And I was telling them, do you know where I got the generosity, the values of generosity and kindness? We used to sit here when our elder brothers were working, and they would come over Christmas with gifts and give us clothes and so on. And I think we have lost that. And I was telling these kids, some of them 11 years old, do you want to become like me? Do you want to be visiting and bring us gifts? And they were so excited. And when we were living, we prayed together. And I tend to think there's a lot of values that we have lost along the way that would now resonate with our times and where this country is going. That Vision 2030 that Dr. Kasuku talks about is not just in paper. It is practical nuances, practical stories, practical policies that will empower those young people to see themselves as O'Brien interviewing great people, as Dr. Kasuku having become a global figure, as a beautiful young lady like Susan here, leading a ministry or a department in the ministry, and being optimistic and loving our country and articulating and defending the policies of the government. We can't all just be negative. We can't also be criticizing and tearing down everything good and only focusing on the negative. I think we need to change our minds.
Very good.
And let us be positive about our country.
And the desire of each and every one of us is that we'll start moving towards that direction, that we start celebrating our small wins.
Absolutely.
Very good. I want to hear this from Kasuku. When you look at for example, you know, the Lamu port, with the huge success, I mean, it's now receiving an average of 5 ships, you know, docking at that facility. We saw the launch of the construction of the Taifa gas, which is expected to significantly bring down the cost of LPG in this country. We have also seen the commissioning of various affordable housing projects. How does all these tie in to making Kenya a great nation in the year 2024?
Thank you, Brad. First and foremost, I want to pick from where my friends have left. I want to say that the generations that we are looking at today, the young ones and the ones who will be coming after them, are not even people who are eager to listen to being advised anymore by word of mouth. They want to be engaged on something where they actually participate in an output. So what you're saying about Lamu Port and all those big infrastructure, whether you're talking about Mombasa Port, you're talking about Ongokundu, you're talking about the initiatives to start to deal with issues of gas storage and providing affordable gas, among many other services in the economy. Therefore means that we have a big duty as a country. Number one, to develop this country and to make it a regional hub, if not a continental hub, because we still have to go through some of those spaces. And what the Lamu Port was bringing on board, or what the Lamu Port is bringing on board, is actually that new investment platform that is intertwining a port and space for an industrial city, which was going to begin investment using, through an ACZ. And the kind of things that my sister Mangeni is talking about, let's say, like, how do you make these people who are trained through TVET and the others, where do they go, where do they work, how do they give them jobs? We need to understand that industrialization has always been driven from waterfront locations. And civilization industrialization and urbanization have always been driven from waterfront locations. Some of the biggest industrial cities in the world, even some of the youngest but have grown to be so big, like Shenzhen, which is about 42 years old, is a waterfront one. Talk about Hong Kong, talk about Shanghai.
Even Singapore. Cape Town. New York.
Durban, New York. Go to all those areas. Talk about Hamburg. Talk about Rotterdam. Talk about so many places. What I want to say is that we have a big opportunity here in Kenya. And the master planning of the Lamu Industrial City, integrating it together with the port itself, to create the three phases of a port location where you are talking about the port, you are talking about the city and the industry, is actually one thing that has the ability to be the seed for the next industrial and job creation location in this country. So what I would like to say is that the fact that 5 ships are docking there actually is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see more robust activities there. I know that we drove the agenda during the building of the port and during the planning stages. And that's what actually gave LAPSSET its famous name and positioning in the country, in the region, in the continent, and around the globe. I can tell you that whenever there was an official Kenya visit to some of the to different parts of the globe, they never failed to be asked something about LAPSSET because it became a household, investment name. Mm. So what we need to do today is actually to push it further and to make sure that some of those platforms for investment that are waiting there because they're already in the plans are actually actualized. And no investor will come if you have the plans and you're seated there and maybe you're using them as part of enhancing the positioning of your pillow. They will not come. But you have to deploy a strategy to get them on board. You have to search for them to get on board. And I believe that we have a lot of grounds in this country, particularly with respect to having creating a more robust investment climate in Kenya. The regional competitions that we are seeing and that are being written, talked about and written, about in the media, or online, and all the others, are not really anything that can rubbish away or that can wish away what has already been established there. So we need to get that rubber hitting the road in terms of getting investors on board. Mm-hmm. That's number one.
That's the number one.
And we have to grow our industrial capacity. Mm. And to approach from the side where Mangeni sits.
Bottom up.
Mangeni. Mangeni, can you allow me to use something more robust? I know it's robust and we appreciate it. Beta is the policy now. But yes. Let me say that Mangeni is talking about MSMEs. So far we think that the big industries maybe brought by foreigners is what will bring Kenya out of the industrialization process that has been going on for the last 5 years or more. It is actually the upscaling and the improvement of the capacities that we are having in people you see along roadsides. Like when you see workshops along roadsides, when you find people trained by Mangeni's, TVETs. You don't expect these people to just be walking around the streets and begging for a job. Mm. They need to find industrial establishments where they can work. And some of the biggest problems that these people have, I know Mangeni has done some study on this, is working spaces. That's why you find them patched on all spaces you can call illegal, roadsides and the like. I participated in undertaking a study to understand what is really the big problem of MSMEs. Working spaces is one of their biggest problems. Number 2, they have the problem of quality in terms of standards of goods that they produce. Why? Because they do not have the appropriate cutting-edge technology, machines that they can be able to use to produce quality and consistent quality goods. But we know that the TVETs already have some of those CNC machines. I know you have seen them in the TVETs. those CNC machines are very important in terms of production of prototypes and being consistent in the quality, and particularly when you want to produce many more things. So we need to find out, how do we marry the existing facilities with the demand for those particular facilities? We need to find out, how do we therefore establish common user facilities for these MSMEs? Those guys you find along Gong Road, Jogo Road, and the like, they cannot go to China and buy some of those CNC machines for themselves.
And I think this is the reason why now the government is developing what they are calling the KIBs, the county aggregated industrial parks.
Aggregation and industrial.
So what I'm trying to say, even if you have that aggregation park, but you do not have the right approach in terms of what they need to have to produce, the common user facilities, so far, if you understand the process of producing, like if you gave an MSME to produce for you this glass table, they cannot produce the quality that maybe you can import from elsewhere, because maybe they don't have the proper machine that will produce it. But if they go elsewhere, maybe in somebody's industry, to produce for them this shape, then they pay an arm and a leg. And at the end of the day, their products become outpaced in terms of pricing. So when we get common user facilities, where if you go to maybe using association approaches, or you can use clustering approaches and the like, and you get for them these facilities, then they can be able, instead of giving money, let's say to...
That's what we are doing.
Yes, I'm not criticizing you. I'm saying that is one of the approaches. So I'm happy that you are doing that. Yes. So I'm saying, I'm actually, so I'm right, isn't it?
No, you're
that
right.
We need common user facilities to build capacity of these MSMEs. That's one. Number two, there is lack of infrastructure where these people work. A lot of times they have to, sometimes that's where you find illegal tapping of power. They don't have water, they don't have many other things. So maybe all these things, as you are addressing working spaces, then you need also to improve on infrastructure. The other bit that affects MSMEs is actually financing. And maybe that's why you have the ASLA fund. But if you look at the production systems that need to go with industrial capacities, even at the lower MSME level, maybe you need a more upscaled financing scheme or facility. That can assist them. The other bit definitely is doing business with government and also external markets. I think there is a new approach, maybe that is coming up, particularly in utilizing Kenyan missions abroad to be able to market goods that are produced by Kenya. If you're talking about things being produced in Kenya, how do you take them to DRC? How do you take them to Tanzania? How do you take them even to beyond the African continent? Therefore, maybe creating a competitive edge. But of great importance here is that the MSMEs that my good sister, is taking care of, actually account for over 98% of enterprises.
That's true.
In this country. Over 98% of enterprises. And over 90% of people employed in this country are actually found in those spaces. If you talk about the creation of new jobs, who are the people who are creating, or which is the largest sector in creating jobs in this country? MSMEs create over 50% of new jobs every year in the country. If you're talking about the youth, therefore, catering for the youth, you realize that about 70% of our population, between 65% and 70% is youth, isn't it? But who are the unemployed? Over 75% of the unemployed are youth. So therefore, the approaches that we are talking about, and actually creating mechanisms to address some of these gaps, is actually one of the greatest ways to achieve creation of employment and also growing the economy. So when we come to Lamu, the industrial systems that I'm talking about that are being set, that have been planned there, are actually not things that we expect just foreigners to come and then we will count as industries being there. The SEZs that we are talking about are not just things that we expect foreigners to come and find a home and then we say now we have industries growing. We need to strengthen the growing of our industrial base from the capacities that we are developing locally, marrying them with the others that come from outside the country in the name of investors coming on board. as well as tapping new technologies from elsewhere, so that we can grow the industrial bases that we are talking about in the ACZs, the industrial cities, the new port facilities we have built. And because we are looking at regional integration, in which the regional integration infrastructure is already connecting us to the borders of neighboring countries like Ethiopia, South Sudan, among many others, then we expect that we should really be achieving the aspirations of our Vision 2030.
I can see PS Susan wants to respond to what you're saying. Yes.
No, I was not raising a question.
No, okay, he's not raising a question, but I just want to pick it up in terms of, he raises very, very important questions on how to make this sector MSME. Indeed, is the bedrock of our economy and is at the center of the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of the current administration. So I would say I want to reiterate what I said earlier, that for us as a government to properly implement better, we have to provide end-to-end intervention. We will not just show you, teach you how to fish. We must provide you with the fishing gears and fishing nets, but we also have to show you where to fish. So in MSME sector, it means we got to invest in capacity building, some of the issues which he has raised here, the need for standardization, quality training, skilling, and retooling of our MSME players. Then also, we have also to look at the whole aspect of market linkages, access to markets. And what the government has done in the last 1 year is to push for the counter aggregation and industrial parks, because this is one form of expanding the markets for MSME, and also to try and position this country as a country that now is ready to do value addition, because this true value add agro-processing, that Kenya is going to get value from its production, what we produce, because you see that in the balances between what we import vis-a-vis what we export is very, you know, that kind of trading is very much in balance. But economies which are doing well, they import less, but they export more. And for us to attain those levels, we have to really invest in agro-processing and other forms of value addition to our raw materials. Now, the government has flagged out key priority value chains, the first one being leather. You'll see that as a country, we are, I think, number 4 in the continent in terms of animal production. And also we are good beef eaters, and rather meat eaters. Unfortunately, we've been having a challenge in terms of recovering hides and skins. So half of the hides and skins that is laid every year gets lost up somewhere. So there is not so much value into it. So we're seeing this as a huge sector that can enable us create more jobs to young people, because if you look at the whole leather value chains, there's so much, from the production, the animal feeding, the feedlots, the animal keeping, you know, to the up to the time when the tanneries and turning those into finished products. There's huge opportunities around that value chain that can enable us create jobs and business opportunities to our young people. We are focusing on dairy. Again, Kenya, we do well when it comes to milk production. Unfortunately, we need to double it to the scale where we can actually also take advantage of the increase now, the market that we have in the region at the continental level, and also the EAC. As we, you know, right now, we just welcome the Somali as part of the EAC. We've had Sudan, we had DRC, expanding now the market, and we're looking into more than 300 million plus population in the EAC. And of course, we have the African Free Continental Trade also, which provides us with the additional market. But for us now to really make more value out of that market, we have to increase production and also invest more in value addition. We're talking about textile and apparel. Again, huge opportunities in cotton. Today, we've entered into agreement with the AGOA agreement and America, the US has even overtaken Uganda in terms of trading with Kenya. We're doing a lot of exports there, which most of it is in AGOA. But you see, one of the conditions of AGOA is that you need to export those that you have locally produced. But now the cotton industry went down, and you see the government has really now invested in BT cotton, providing BT cotton seeds, and we are reviving the whole cotton industry, cotton farming in parts of Nyanza and Western Kenya, and especially where I come from, Busia is really catching up. We are doing that by also reviving the cotton cooperative movement to make sure that now our farmers now can commit to more acreages into the cotton industry for us even to meet the quotas that we have to export in AGOA. We are looking at the rice production. When things were tough and droughts and everything, rice came in handy, but we couldn't have it. Yet we have, if you look at Kenya in terms of the rivers and the wetlands area, we have enough space. We have enough opportunities for us to produce more rice. And if it will come a time when we don't have maize, then rice comes in to do that. As I said, for us even to think about industrialization, we must be able to provide food. We must be able to attain some level of food security for our population. We're talking about tea and coffee. Again, we've just been exporting the raw materials and we don't get much value. And Kasuku here knows, and my friend here, if you've traveled outside Kenya, the cup of coffee is very expensive. Cost more. And if you are to look at what our farmers get at the end of the day, is really very low. But again, since we are a heavily agricultural economy, the challenge is if we let now farmers get tired of now farming coffee and tea, as you've seen in parts of central Kenya, even here around here, Kiambu here, Thika, where people now are uprooting the coffee plantation in favor of real estate. The real estate will burst. The balloon will burst one day because there is no source of income. Because our source of income primarily is from farming, from agriculture. So what you're doing, you've seen a lot of reforms in the coffee sector, and I want to thank the government and especially the Deputy President, who has been at the front line, really fighting off cartels and everything and ensuring that the farmers can get value of his coffee. We're looking at building and construction where affordable housing is coming as a value chain. We're looking at blue economy. We're looking at edible oils crops. Interestingly, edible oils is the second import bill in this country after the petroleum.
Is the highest? After petroleum.
After second highest after petroleum. And you'll imagine the edible oil crops. These are traditional food value chains. Sesame, groundnuts, sunflower. These are
we have good weather to grow sunflower seeds.
So now what the government is doing, now for us to put value into this and to move now into value addition, sat down with the county government and see how can we put up this industrialization. And that's why in the last 1 year, we've been able to do a groundbreaking of close 18 county aggregation and industrial park. And these one are supposed to, the common manufacturing facility or common user facilities that he's talking about, that's where they're going to be, position, so that our farmers there in each and every county. And what we have also done, we have mapped out this value chain to each and every region of this country. Again, we've gone ahead and we have established 2 more special economic zones. We now have, where I come from, the Busia. There is a Nasewa special economic zone, which is now going to serve the Western Kenya, including also where Kasuku come from, Nyanza. We also have one in Eldoret, and then we have Naivasha, where we're going to focus more on leather value chain. There is also going to be one at the border of, I think, Kiambu and Murang'a there. So you can see, as a government, we have a plan, and we're trying to see how do we attain the equitable economic growth. But just now, to finish, is that I agree with you the trading spaces has been one of the most hurting thing among the MSMEs, especially the hawkers. And you've seen, we've been so much loud about this. How do we decriminalize work? If we are saying that majority of Kenyans cannot find opportunities to be employed formally, because out of the 20 million workforce, only 3.5 million are formally employed. 16.5 are outside there. The government, as it stands today, has only employed around 970,000, less than 1 million. Majority who are remaining, the 2.5 or thereabout, are in the private sector. What does it mean to us? For us to grow the economy, the best form of engagement that majority of Kenyans want is the economic engagement. And where the room is in the private sector. And so it's now our responsibility of all the stakeholders, not just those in government alone, even those in opposition, to see on how can we mobilize and rally the population around economic empowerment opportunities so that at the basic minimum, they can put food on the table. And even as we do that, like he put it, we have to see how do we grow the MSME sector from micro, small scale them up to medium, where now they establish farms which are competitive, that can create jobs. And for us to do this is the industrialization that he's talking about. Let me just respond, because he said Hustler Fund, yes. Hustler Fund to us is like a key to a room where we have opportunity. The fact that we created a visibility of 20 million Kenyans, we're going to graduate this. Already we have the second product of the Hustler Fund, which is group loan. Again, at that level, individuals can aggregate themselves into a group and access higher loans.
Very good.
And if that is not enough, what we are doing is, and from beginning January, we are going to digitalize all the existing groups who have been doing table banking. And what we're going to do, we are going to match up for them. If your group capitation is about 100,000, for example, we'll match you up with another 100,000 to increase your capital. If it's 1 million, we'll match you up with another 1 million at 8% per annum, per year. Let me say per year so that majority of my customers there at the bottom can hear per year. Because what has been happening in this space is that the interest rates have been very much exploitative. At some point, it's 10% per day. And there is no business, there is no growth that you can see if you are doing such kind of business. So we are committed into ensuring that we decriminalize work, into ensuring that every Kenyan is engaged in some sort of economic activity that first and foremost can enable him or her put food on the table, and two, now as he or she figure out on how to become more prosperous.
Very well. I also want to bring on board Dr. Ezekiel Mutua, and this is an issue that touches on sport. And we saw this year, Kenya won the right to host the AFCON, the African Cup of Nations 2027. And sport has a unique ability to unite a nation and to inspire hope. And we saw this in South Africa just the other day when the Springboks won the Rugby World Cup. You know, it's brought the country together, despite the fact that the country is undergoing various economic and social challenges. How then do we seize the opportunities presented by AFCON in 2027 to unite the country, to inspire hope in our people, and of course, to forge a new unity going forward, and also bearing in mind that 2027 is a political year. We're going into elections in 2027. So how then do we seize that opportunity to create a positive feeling and a positive image for ourselves as a country?
Thank you, Brian. I think, like I've said, I've worked very closely with the CS for sports and the creative economy. And I think there's assurance, first of all, that the AFCON will take place, hosted, of course, within the three countries. And that assurance is a great thing, because a lot of naysayers were, the rights will be taken away. I think the hosting of AFCON will have a lot of implications, even for our youth, benefits. And we need to structure the entire ecosystem to ensure that we maximize on those benefits, not just in winning the AFCON itself, but ensuring that we host it in a professional manner, and that we reap the benefit that come with it in terms of tapping into a great event like that. So I tend to think right now the measures that the government has put in place in terms of ensuring that the stadia and everything is ready, I think the physical elements of it are ongoing. But we need, and listening to PS Susan, you feel that she has all the information. What I don't know is, are people getting that information on the ground? Do people know even what that AFCON means? She has articulated quite a lot of programs with clarity, with ease. I don't know how to break it. I think, PS, this should concern you. I don't know that we need to use our vernacular stations. Or there must be a way in which the youth must feel you. Because that's where the disconnect is, O'Brien. That they don't feel the government. That when you go up country, they don't feel Susan. And you wonder why she's articulate. She has it on her fingertips. Why are we not feeling as excited about the kind of things that she's talking about? That's the same thing about AFCON. I can tell you. I mean, if you were to take a survey right now, it doesn't excite many people. Yet this is a huge thing. And I go back to what I said. We must find a way of re-engineering our approach to life, telling positive stories and celebrating, like you said, our small gains. And telling people it matters to celebrate these things and to focus on the positive. I was looking at the creative economy, for example, and I think listening to PS Susan, and thank you, PS, for articulating these policies very clearly, because, like I said, what the creative economy means and our youth need is just an enabling environment and the right policies. If you look at the United States of America, I think Hollywood contributes greatly to the GDP of that country. Without Hollywood, I think America wouldn't be what it is today. Close home here in Nigeria, Nollywood, I think is the second highest contributor to the GDP of that country. Without Nollywood, Nigeria actually wouldn't be, even in terms of soft diplomacy and the branding of that country, wouldn't be what it is today. Those sectors, or the creative economy sector, has never been built by the government. It has been built by the private sector. And I think there is every reason for the government now to listen to the private sector, engage more with the private sector, and ensure that the low-hanging fruits are tapped into, and that we bring the private sector on board, listen more to KEPSA, work with the KEPSA more, and ensure that we have policies that will tap into the low-hanging fruits, because there are many. If we continue to amplify the negativity and the bleak future and paint it like there's no hope, and like you've said, you're even analyzing the elections of 2027, it's so far away. And I tend to think we need to tone down and next year roll our sleeves and get to work and tell our people that nobody will ever come and solve your problem. The government does not come to till your land. We got to get the people to think, how do we tap into what she's saying? How do we even bother to give us that information? How can we access PS and the government? How can we get that information trickling down, and what does it mean to that young person who is so creative, who is in that TVET in my village, but they think you will graduate and you will not get a job. The catch has been, you have the papers, you finish your course, get back home, and there is no hope. We need to listen to these stories and ensure that we connect with our populations and ensure that people understand that the government exists for them and the government has good plans. I said in the bigger picture, when you look at it, all is not just bleak and doom and gloom. I was just reading something here that is being shared by, I think it is one of our friends that we share with the PS here, Albert Maloba. And the statistics from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics that show that in quarter 3, GDP grew by 5.9% compared to 4.3% during similar period in 2022. Positive story right there. Records also show lowest inflation since April 2022. This is from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. And there's a drop, the rate drops to 6.6 in December, compared to 6.8 in November. If you look at what the government is doing, you can see in the bigger picture, we are moving well. That the fact that we have even paid now $68.7 million US, this is about 10 billion, interest due for the Eurobond, and we are meeting our international obligations, debt obligations, when countries like Ethiopia, and we have all been talking about comparing Kenya and Ethiopia, and why is even Ethiopian airline and industries and even Safaricom moving to Ethiopia and so on, and looking at us like we're not doing anything, and the growth is in the other countries. And I think of the CAF, we were just talking, even our neighbors, and the bumble that will burst at some point that is not realistic. We can trust our president and the policies of the government. I think we owe the government that, just a benefit of the doubt, and do our part as citizens and enable the private sector to come in and support the government to build this economy. I think the future is bright. I choose to be an optimist. I think for the creative economy, for the first time, like I've told you, we had the Jamhuri Day dedicated to us, to the creative economy. Recognition. Look at what Governor Sakaja is doing with the Nairobi festivals. Great things are happening. And I think we need to turn our cameras to these positive stories. I'm very grateful that you invited us. And look at the blend of the panelists that are here. I think this is the way we need to go. And this is a challenge I'm giving to the media. The media has a duty to rebuild the moral psyche of our nation, to focus on positivity, and to work hard, and to ensure that we own our nation. It is not us versus the government. No. It's not them versus us. That kind of culture, that kind of behavior does not build a nation. And you can't wish that the government fails. I think, first of all, we need to mute anybody. This is too early in the tenure of this government for us to start wishing. And it's not even intelligent to wish that the president fails, that this government fails. Then what? Where do you go? We are part of this country. And all of us must therefore pray, hope that the president succeeds, hope the government succeeds. We are asking the government also to be accountable and preach what they, preach water and drink water, not wine. And if the austerity measures that are being pronounced, if that can be emphasized on, and we cut down on the opulence, I think Kenya is a great country. Very good. There's a great future for all of us.
Yeah, because I can see we are almost coming to the tail end of this conversation. I still want to give you a minute.
Yes.
Just to inspire hope in the heart and minds of people who are watching this program, and tell them what is likely to happen and what will shape the year 2024.
Like I've said, I'm optimistic. I am a living example. I give my own example because this is all I can. It's me. And I think when I look at the kind of things that the government is doing, and the fact that for the first time, when we are facing a calamity of defaulting on our debt, we have managed to pay the interest. I hope we manage to pay the principal. And I believe that if we can trust the government and work with the government and leverage on the policies that the government is implementing, the future looks bright. My call on Kenyans is that we pray for the government. The economy, and I think Dr. Kasuko said it, Kenya must look at itself in the context of the global dynamics and the things that are happening in Ukraine, in Hamas and Israel, and all those factors. But locally here, how do we rally together like a team, a football team, and score? I am a supporter of Manchester United, and I stayed late the night before yesterday watching us. We were down 2 goals by halftime. And, a lot of people are giving up. But I look at those players, they kept playing. They kept doing what a player does. Close your ears to the noise and concentrate to the last whistle. Do you know we ended up winning 3-2?
Oh, really?
Yes, the great Manchester United. I think this is the attitude we should have.
What are you talking about?
Keep playing.
We don't want to bring football rivalry here because I can see Pierre Susan is almost getting agitated. You talking about Manchester United. But I want to give her this opportunity, and I'm also giving you a minute to inspire hope to Kenyans in the year 2024.
I think we are taking off. We already almost taking off from the runway. Despite all those challenges, beneath there is massive opportunity. And I want to say, and I want to walk through the words of His Excellency the President, and he has said, and I think you have also cited those words. He says, to him, it's not about the next election. It's about the next generation that all of us must be focused about. And to Kenyans who are watching us, I just want to let them know that there is nothing good that comes without pain. The sweetest memories, the best memories even in a family, are memories of a newborn. You know, it's that experience. But for someone like us, especially me as a mother, I know to reach that opportunity while you're celebrating a newborn, there's much pain. I think we have done the labor part of it. Now we are at a point where we are going to see the fruits. But also let me say this, for my sector, MSMEs, there's quite a lot which is coming in. And as somebody said, I was reading in the papers that we are paying the Eurobond, the short-term loans, which are very expensive in terms of the interest rates. But our president has also been very, very focused in terms of going around the globe and trying to see where we can secure concessional loans.
Good.
And one sector that is going to benefit from that efforts that our president has done in the last 1 year is the MSME sector. Already as we speak, we have mobilized close to 500 million USD, US
and
dollars,
I really have to cut you down,
that is going to finance that sector. So we just telling them that get ready, get prepared, enterprise your space. When it comes to financing, we have opportunity to finance you to scale up your business. And then borrow hustler fund, repay, so that you can attain that credit score, which is now going to become a new form of collateral in the market. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. What I can say in a nutshell is that managing this economy and managing this country after the last election definitely was not going to be a walk in the park for any leader, irrespective of who was to win. And today, President Ruto is on the driving seat, he won. And I know, because I come from a professional background where we understand what takes place in the economy. I understood at that time during the election that it was not a very easy time that we were going into. They were all difficult moments to come. What I want to say is that the success of Kenya is the success of all of us. The failure of Kenya
is a failure
would be our worst outcome for all of us. So if the government succeeds, it is good for all of us. And what I would therefore want to urge all Kenyans is that we get away from petty talk, we get away from petty excitements, we get down to work, we deliver this country to where it needs to be delivered to. The Kenyan economy is not like any other economy in the region, and that's why it is unique. And that uniqueness requires much, much more effort to build.
Very good. Gentlemen and a lady, thank you very much indeed for finding time this afternoon to come and share with us your insights and of course to inspire this hope that we really need to move this country forward. Your time is highly appreciated. Thank you very much. I mean, you have been watching Inside Government, and I want to say this. It is the effort of every ant that helps the colony to create the anthill. They have to work together. And once they succeed, they celebrate together. It is a responsibility of each and every one of us, wherever you are, to contribute towards the making of a great Kenya. And that is the responsibility that we owe the past generation as well as the future generation. My goodness, time is over. We've been here for 2 hours. We have to call it a wrap. Thank you very much for your time. Have yourself a great year ahead of you. Merry 2024 and a healthy time ahead of you. Bye for now. My name is O'Brien Kimani.
ameomba msamaha nitampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
Yo, ni DJ Shiti hapa, mwigizaji ambao mmekuwa mkimtazama muda mrefu kwenye runinga zenyu, na kwa ile support ambao mmekuwa mkinipatia imefikia hatua pia nikasema vipi ndaweza kuwalipa, na kwa kweli siwezi kuwalipa. Sina cha kuwalipa mbali na humanity, utu ama ubinadamu. Niliweza kuingia katika website ya Save a Life, na hata ukiingia utajionea na utagundua kuwa imesaidia watu zaidi ya 5,000. Imefanya operation zaidi ya 1,500. Kitu ambacho ni kitu kikubwa sana. Unajua ugonjwa haijaandikiwa mtu fulani. Hakuna mtu anapenda kugonjeka. Hakuna mtu anapenda aje kwa ugonjwa, ni hali tu ambayo inapata watu. Wengine wanazaliwa nayo, wengine nawapata katika ni hali ambayo binadamu tunaishi nayo, na hakuna jinsi tutaikwepa.
Dereva, kutumia simu wakati uko barabarani ni hatari kwako, abiria wako na kwa wengine wote walio barabarani. Wengi wamepoteza maisha yao au kujeruhiwa baada ya kuhusika katika ajali zilizosababishwa na madereva wanaotumia simu. Usiwe mmoja wao. Usalama barabarani unaanza na wewe. Ujumbe